Hi, everyone. Carl Steinbeck here. Missed a couple days of coverage here. Been ending the day too late to start live streaming. But I wanted to jump on tonight and talk about the surprise we saw today with the state ending their case in chief and defense for all their blistering and big tough talk, making it sound like they had stuff to present. They rested as well. They have nothing to present, nothing to counteract what prosecution presented. They're not required to under the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of Utah. Burden is solely on the government, but you'd think they'd have something favorable to talk about with Kouri. You'd think you have something to explain away, but the bottom line is her attorneys know that she has nothing to explain away, and that would guarantee her going down in flames. So that's what they decided to do. They were able to convince her. It's ultimately her choice whether she testifies or not. So they could have no other evidence other than Kouri testifying. But Kouri has no emotion. Corey's totally flat. She doesn't think that it's anything that's really emotionally affecting her, what she's had to go through. She all she wants to do, it looks like, from what the evidence is showing, is she wants to flip houses, make a lot of money, live like rich people, and so be it. No loss at all for Kouri. So, I mean, for Eric. So that's something that I think is abundantly clear to the jury. She has no concern, one iota, one remorse of what's happened to Eric. And despite the fact their kids are suffering with that every day, 3 boys are suffering that every day with the loss of their father. So it's just unmitigated cruelty, viciousness, and evilness about. And this jury is not gonna be bamboozled and snookered and tricked by the defense at all. I'm sure they totally get it. I've visited Utah there for when was it, many years ago in the 90s for a legal conference out in Salt Lake City. So it's very beautiful out there. Don't know too much about the culture other than I know it's very much, as I'm sure most of y'all know, it's generally very dominant with Mormon faith, and they do have a big influx of folks, especially from California, that have gone there in the last 10, 20 years. So it's become more multicultural of sorts. And anyway, it's very much in Park City there. It's more of a ritzy area, a lot of high wealth there, that people have some opportunities to be sitting like that on the jury. But we don't know what the jury composition is as far as their background, what kind of occupations or anything like that. So, but regardless of what it is, I do think that we're going to be looking at a quick outcome here, even if it takes more than a few hours. The jury's going to come back for instructions on Monday morning. I'll be surprised if they take more than Monday to deliberate. But even if they take more, whatever time they take, I'm not worried about it, because I think the government's going to do a slam dunk win here. I'm not even worried if they find her guilty of the other miscellaneous financial fraud type crimes. What we're looking at here is a murder case. This is a murder case. Other stuff is just ancillary. So prosecutors are really not worried about that. You know, they're gunning for the murder. These other charges help support the motive behind it. That's why they charged it. So let's go ahead and look at recapping some of the key takeaways from day 12. The other night, last time I was on, I think it was 2.5 hours. So I don't want to go that late. It's already after midnight here. So I'm going to try to move this right along. If you guys can mention where you're from, that'd be interesting to see. And let's see here. Here we go. This is day 12. I want to go to it was another morning that was tied up with folks working on motions. When a lot of these motions turned out to be absolutely meaningless. So I'm not going to cover all of day 12, but I want to get to some of the stuff here at 6:38.
You just scroll through that real quick.
Maybe.
66.
There we go. So this is like a journal for Kouri. She starts it out Thursday, March 3rd. So this was taken from search warrant near her nightstand or dresser, whatever you want to call it. Saying how the day started out, it's a typical day. Ashton had a dentist appointment that morning, get a filling put in for his cavity. After the dentist, we headed back home so Ashton could stay home with Weston and something while I went to do my weekly volunteering at the school that evening. I made dinner. We all ate as usual and ended the night like any other evening. Around 8:30, I read the kids' books, and about 9 o'clock, they climbed into bed. Eric had been on his phone most of the evening in a texting war with a hunting guide from Mexico and a few other people trying to get his horns back, sounds like. To the U.S., yeah, it's apparently like antlers from whatever he is killing out there in Mexico. Around 9:15, he was screaming mad at these guys and threw his phone. At that point, he said, "Let's go have a celebration drink." The following day, I was closing on a huge investment home in Midway. I've been working on this deal for 4 months, and closing day was finally here, and Eric and I were going to toast for the closing. We went into the kitchen and both started grabbing ingredients for a Moscow Mule in a lemon drop shop. He was going on and on. About these guys in Mexico and was so mad about the entire situation. We finished talking, made our way back to our room and brushed our teeth. As we both climbed in bed, we could hear Ashton moaning and tossing and turning. He was having nightmares again. I told Eric I would go to sleep with him and tried to calm him down. We kissed, said I love you and good night, and I went to Ashton's room and laid with him. 30 minutes later, I could hear Eric snoring, and I finally fell asleep. This is a key thing right here. I could hear Eric snoring. This is 30 minutes later she's talking about. So the thing is, with the amount of fentanyl he ingested, I looked this up. Fentanyl, this is a normal amount that is enough to kill you, not 5 times that amount. It can kill you within seconds. They call it a one pill kill for a reason. I mean, one pill can wipe you out. It shuts down your breathing. And if you don't breathe, you don't get oxygen. You die out so fast. So in any event, this is something that I think is a very key thing, because the amount he had there, he didn't have a chance to call 911. If he had called for help, would she have done anything to respond to help him? But the amount he had, there's nothing that you could have done to help him. I guess it's good in the sense that he didn't suffer, so he would have been killed off that quickly. So this is something that I heard those saying you could hear him snoring. Sorry, but if he ingested that much of that fentanyl, there's no chance for him to snore. He went from being normal to being dead within seconds. Okay, so if he's dead within seconds, how do you explain this snoring? This here is a major lie. I hope the prosecution, their closing, focus on this. This is massively indicating that she's lying about what happened that night. He never would have snored. I wish they would have brought in a medical expert to talk about this. There's no chance he would have snored. If somebody ingests this and then goes to sleep, you're not going to be snoring 30 minutes later. He wasn't even alive within seconds, I submit, after he drank that. So so I've not heard that brought up by the prosecution. Hopefully they'll bring that out. Yeah, boatload. That's true. That's what the detective said. There's a boatload of fentanyl in them. So it was easily snuck in a drink. He wouldn't have tasted it. So that's what happened. From the time he drank that, I don't even think he was in the bed. It doesn't sound like she did CPR. I think she probably just dragged him to the bedroom. and she wouldn't have been able to lift his dead body up onto the bed. So that's why he's closer to the end of the bed there, I think. So we don't know that for sure, but if I was on the jury, that's what I'd be thinking. Yeah. So Ruth Ann, you agree with that? So true. No chance to snore. The snoring thing, it's little nuggets. I'm telling you, little nuggets in cases. It's just like something you can just totally pull the thread on and just totally have this unravel their theory. So standard poodle didn't prove where the fentanyl came from. Well, we know who was trying to get him something that would make him sicker than what he did on 14th of February, right? So who would have had that? If you look at the mannerisms and behavior of Kouri before and after, and that day, it all adds up. There's only one conclusion the jury's going to come to is that she's behind it. Yeah, there's no LMR. You're saying no proof of CPR. Yeah, some of you guys are commenting she wasn't out of breath. Nothing. So, Carla Martin, you agree? Fent acts extremely quick. I'm told she's a liar. If you use 5 times a lethal dose, then that's I mean, I even read that you cannot even finish what you're ingesting fentanyl with. It'll kill you that quick that you don't even finish the food or whatever mechanism you have to get it in your stomach. Okay. So, and you know what? Here's the thing. Where's that Moscow Mule? Did he down it all? Would like to see what glass that was. So there's a lot of stuff the prosecution, the law enforcement folks could have like cleared up, try to see what kind of things he was drinking, get her to say what was he drinking out of? You know, they didn't tie that up the night in question. But I think it's still abundantly clear that this is exactly what happened, was what the prosecutor's saying happened. So, yeah, so let's see this. If they bring up this 30 minutes later, I could hear him snoring. The 30 minutes snoring later, yeah, sorry. It's another kill shot for your defense. Yeah, tatted TT. Kouri tried to control the nerve with everyone, even the police. Yeah, and you know what? That's what they accuse the family of Eric's doing, the Richins are doing, is trying to like push the police to do everything. Now they did have to do some stuff to get the police moving, and that thank God they have that investigator and did such a great job. He's the one that found Carmen, but they shouldn't be able to find Carmen without him, but they probably wouldn't have. So, all right, let's go ahead. I want to get through some of the rest of this, but this is like explosive dynamite right here. When I saw it, she said 30 minutes later he's snoring. I'm right there. Nailed. She's nailed. Her lies are nailed right there. And then here she says March 4th at 3:20. She generally said around 3 o'clock. Now she's saying 3:20. I woke up from sleeping with Ashton and went to crawl back in my bed. It was dark and awkwardly quiet. Eric snores more times than not, so I thought it was weird. I didn't hear anything. I crawled into bed and went on Eric's side of the bed and put my arm over him. He was very cold, so I pulled the blanket up on him, but his body just felt so strange to me. It was heavy is only word I can think of to describe it. So I nudged him and said, Eric, nothing. I kept nudging him and just remembered the stiffness of his body. I jumped out of bed and ran and turned the lights on. He was pale, green, yellow, mouth open, and something came over to me that something good. I grabbed my phone and called 911 and ran up to Eric to see if he was breathing or had a pulse, but he didn't. Panic had sunk in as I was talking to dispatch. She had to pull She had me pull Eric to the floor to do CPR. As much as I didn't want him basically falling on the ground, I pulled him as hard as I could to get him down and began CPR compressions until this EMT arrived. They immediately took over, getting out their defibrillator and starting compressions. Excuse me. The worst part of it was all of it was when they were pumping his lungs and blood went everywhere. He's like on replay in my mind. Let's see here. And it was, and it won't go away. I began screaming at the EMTs that they weren't doing it right. He shouldn't be bleeding. How would I really know what is right and what is wrong? I have no idea. I screamed, cried, and just sat in the corner of the room by my dresser, rocking forth and back, hoping and praying this was a dream, fading in and out of the moment, hoping to go back to the let's see, where's that part? Hoping to go back to the night before when we were laughing, kissing, and saying goodnight. Would you really be thinking about that? When your husband you think is probably dead, you're thinking about how you're laughing and kissing the night before? I think you'd be in such a freak out mode. Your whole life has changed. The EMT finally asked me to leave the room. He could see I was visibly upset and couldn't function. Why are you doing the self-serving statement of how you're traumatized by this? You're leaving breadcrumbs of how this was really traumatic for you. But you know what? We saw you on the body cam for the police officer, and you weren't shaken up by this. It seemed all fake crying, boo-hooing. He took me to the living room and had me sit down. I couldn't. I paced back and forth until an officer came out and asked, there was someone I'd like to call. I called my mom back to back until she finally picked up. I told her to come quick. The ambulance was here. Something is wrong with Eric. I was upset and crying still. I hung up and still paced back and forth until I finally just dropped to my knees, praying this wasn't happening. At that point, the head EMT walked in and to tell me he didn't make it. We did all we could do. I lost it! Exclamation. One exclamation. I immediately ran to the bathroom and began throwing up. During all this, my kids had woken up and I quickly yelled for them to stay in the room. They knew something was up. They saw the ambulances, cop cars, from what it seems, hours at this point. I could feel their fear, though. Yet I didn't have the courage to dare see them or talk to them at this point. I was curled up around the toilet when my mom walks in with the EMT. Okay, I bet you the EMT didn't see any vomit in there. And you know what? I think the first reaction for most everybody is denial. Why is she so ready to accept the fact that Eric's dead? She'd be in shock and denial. She couldn't accept it. Why is she so readily accepting it? Can't fake that kind of stuff without it being exposed. And you don't want to tell your kids. No, of course you don't want to tell your kids that right as it's going on right there, all that chaos and commotion. So you go to the toilet to throw up. Your mom finds you there. I don't know. Why don't you call Eric's parents, or his dad, I should say, and his sister, let him know to come on over? You have no regard for them, yet you love your husband? And then she says here, my mom walked in with the EMT lady. I could tell she had no words and just rubbed my back. She already knew he was gone. The EMT told her I was distraught. So was she. Why are you covering for your mom like that? She was distraught, really? We couldn't even speak. She just started to say what happened, but I had no answer, for I have no idea. We said, I love you, good night. I went and slept with Ashton. That was it. He just didn't make it just didn't make any sense. I told them EMTs I needed to call my father-in-law. They found my phone for me and I did. Okay, so finally you call your father-in-law. I just said something was wrong with Eric. He needed to come over quick. I told him the ambulance is here, but he wasn't breathing. The odd thing about it was when I called Gene it was about 3:45, 4 a.m. by this time. Okay, so your mom's already there, but then you think about calling Gene. Then he sounded so perky and almost on the hello when he answered, almost like he was expecting my call. It was very strange. Then she talks about here, March 7th, pick up a truck. Cody cleared out garage. March 14th, Cody took computers. And then she has March 4th, Eric passes away. March 5th, friends, Bryce, Chelsea, Allie, Kay, Bree, Ronnie, and Amy sleep over, have a few drinks, and reminisce. We laughed, we cried, and we danced all night. Really? You're going to dance all night? Laughing? Oh, there's a little bit of crying in there, huh? We didn't see that on the videotape. Early in the afternoon, Katie mentioned a green folder, asked me if I knew where it was. I mentioned I didn't know where it was, what she was talking about. She quickly changed the subject and said, we'd figured this out. March 6th, I call a locksmith. To open safe to look for this green folder. Katie was talking about the safe code had been changed and I couldn't open it. Bryce, Amy, Chelsea, Ellie, Bree, and Ronnie slept over. Amy tried to stop me from opening it, and the 2 cops were called. Met with the funeral home, signed on March 8th. The funeral was March 11th. She talks about March 22nd, Kouri starts counseling. 26th of March, the boy started counseling. Anyway, she then talks about April 11th, Detective Woody called to talk about the 12th or 13th. And then she talks about on the 12th, Chelsea goes for the interview, is lied to that she was the last person I talked to. Shellsec's phone records, we never spoke that night. Then she's talking about on the 13th, Jim drives a red truck for oil change. Cody finds out and goes to get it. I don't need to go over the rest of this, but I think that part about Eric snoring is really explosive. Here's another note where she's talking about what happened, just jotting down kids around in bed around 9, drink around 9, in bed around 9:30, 9:45. So anyway, let's see. I want to go to this is conversations via text messages about cost of the remodel.
Just a moment, Your Honor. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Was Kouri's mom investigated for the death of her partner in 2006, says John Boo. I don't know. I heard that the partner died, found dead in the bed, I think also.
Yeah, they took it out. That's okay, Your Honor. No objection at this time.
State moves to admit and publish 2-17D.
2-17D is admitted.
Yes, some more questions I'll get to here in a bit. talking about permits for shooting mountain sheep. Okay, so here this is from Kouri to Eric. And it looks like it's an email. So or is Eric CC'd on it? So anyway, here we have basically they're talking about this mansion on the swamp, and they're talking about all this work this place needs. So all those things you see listed there: exterior work, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, flooring, painting, sheetrock, pool, miscellaneous equipment, virtual reality and golf, tile, cabinets, appliances, light fixtures, finish work, landscaping. Basically, this costs more than actually, I think, than making a house out of scratch, even if all the same square footage. Remodels always cost more than building from scratch. Is this the way it works? And it says there, add up to $4 million. So she's going to do 2.9 plus 4 million in repairs. Where's she going to get this $4 million? And she's got to pay off those notes within 6 months. So she needs to come up with another $4 million. I mean, there's no way she could do that unless she got, the only way she could do that, and that's what argues the prosecutor, the only way she could do that is if she got the insurance money. Eric didn't have that kind of money to give to her. And even if he did, he was not going to give that to her. So the only way she could get this is if he died. The only way she could fix it up for $4 million and sell within a short amount of time. And I don't think it was even feasible anyway, based on all those Corps of Engineer swamp restrictions and all the testing and whatnot. The federal government on those is going to be super slow. It'll take years. This is coming in through Detective O'Driscoll. And I have no idea how much it's going to cost. Just a guess. It's bedtime while he's still up. He has done tonight. He has a meeting with him tomorrow. She's saying to someone else. Person says he's open to about $6 million. OMG, never mind. Never mind. Okay, so this has got to be Eric referring to her as my princess. All right, this is saying here to fix all the rotten plywood and everything else, $125K exterior work. Well, exterior work $650,000, HVAC $200,000, plumbing $200,000, electrical $200,000, flooring $250,000, painting $150,000, sheetrock $150,000, pool $300,000, miscellaneous climbing wall, basketball court, golf simulator $600,000, tile $125,000, cabinets $150,000, appliances $100,000, light fixtures $50K, finish work $200,000, and landscaping and driveway and pulling the sewer and electrical $750,000. Not sure what that adds up to. That's my best guesstimate. You know what they're not talking about? It's all the experts you need, all the remediation and environmental compliance experts you need to be able to get permits to even live there. And also they'll need to do different things to make sure the swamp is preserved. They're not going to be able to fill the swamp with dirt, in other words. Go to bed. Love you. Good night. Love you. Okay, cool. Done. 4.450 million. Still not bad. All in at 7.35. Sell for 14 million to be safe. Yeah, that would never have happened. Yeah, but I bet low on a bunch of things. Remember, we don't have time to do this project. Yeah, so you don't have a lot of time. That's right. That's what I've been saying. You have 6 months to flip this and have it sold before they start foreclosing on you. All right, here she's talking about, that's fine. He knows it's a guess for now. No, we're not doing it, but Matt doesn't finance anything without analysis to give his investors. They want to see some sort of numbers. What investors would invest in this hot mess disaster? My princess, oh, I can't. Celebratory shot tonight. I got to do all this final paperwork this morning because everyone's funding tomorrow. And then I promised Virginia I'd go on a walk with her 1 or 2 because we didn't have time yesterday. Sorry. Is that what she's saying to Eric here? All right. So here, this also right. This slide here they presented proves that Eric was not suicidal. So that's one of the things the state needs to disprove is that was Eric murdered? Did he accidentally die from his own ingestion of fentanyl, or was he suicidal and intentionally taking it? So right here you have indicators from Dennis Kouri asking, did Eric ever talk about suicide? And then Corey's saying not suicide specifically. He would always say things like, if anything ever happened to me, you guys would be set for life, like when he would go hunting or snowmobiling, that kind of thing. So no, he wasn't suicidal. No way. All right, so I don't need to go over this other stuff. Let's jump ahead. This is some messages between Lisa, which is Corey's mom, and her. I didn't think that's worth covering now. So let's jump ahead to the walk the dog letter here at 7:13.
Letter to Lisa Darden, written on either September the 12th or 13th, 2023, that investigators recovered on September the 14th, 2023, from a book that was among Kouri Richins' personal possessions.
This is that letter. It has redactions, but yes, this is that letter.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit and publish 2-86R.
Just renew the previous objections the court's already ruled upon.
Okay. 2-86. Dr. Ronnie.
All right, here we go.
1. Walk the dog, but take vague notes so you remember.
Take vague notes so you remember. In other words, vague notes and commit this to memory because I need you to lie for me. This is the way this comes across.
Here is what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. He will need to tell Sky at the meeting next week. Upon information and belief, just like they say.
So Sky is an attorney, one of her defense attorneys at the time, who had to withdraw because he had a conflict.
A year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and Eric and Ronnie were chatting about Eric's Mexico trips. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico from the workers at the ranch. Not to tell me because I would get mad because I always said he just gets high every night and won't help take care of the kids. There are pictures in my phone of Eric passed out on the floor or in the chair. Ronnie should have texts from Eric talking about getting high as well. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy pill bottle in his work truck, so I wouldn't find them. Ronnie never told me about the conversation. Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get him some.
All right, this is all scripted out. This is what he needs to testify to. This is not, oh, hey, Ronnie, make sure you tell him about what you knew about everything about Eric and fentanyl. That's all she'd have to say, if even that. Really happened.
Eric never wanted anyone to know he had an issue, especially get caught. He always wanted Kouri to go down for him. When they traveled, Eric would put his drugs in Kouri's bag at the airlines right before they boarded. That way, if they were caught, Kouri got in trouble, not him. Once they got to wherever they were going, Eric would pull the drugs out of her bag and it would cause a huge fight.
Okay, so every time you sneak them in there and every time they have a fight, in other words, she knows that they're going to be in her bag. So they would have that conversation after it happened the first time, and then she would ensure that they were not in her bags, right? So this whole thing is just fabricated. And that friend of hers that testified that this happened out in Hawaii, where she found out that there was some THC gummies in her bag. I don't, based on this now, I think she was told to say that.
That he had drug issues, so he would do whatever he had to. Kouri has never done any type of pills, didn't like them. Rarely would she consume THC, only if Eric begged her.
Does this sound like refreshing somebody's memory? No, this sounds like programming somebody's memory. There's no way a jury's not going to see it for what it is.
Because it was a special occasion. Reword this however he needs to make the point.
Yeah, to put it in his own words and ingrain it in his own memory. So he's good at telling it like he believes it. And then she says based on information and belief. So she's mocking what they used in her the paperwork she saw in her search warrants and things of that nature, her indictment.
Point, just include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and drugs. Ronnie will
So she's manufacturing her own defense here. That's what this is. It's so abundantly clear.
Have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. It can be short and to the point, but has to be done. Upon information and belief, LOL.
Yeah, so it's real easy to lie about it. That's what she's basically saying. Yeah, it's this information belief. I believe it happened, so I can testify about it as if it actually did.
They never found pain pills or fentanyl in my house because he hid it in allergy bottle in work truck. And Cody emptied out work truck within a week, so they were never found.
Why wouldn't one of someone like your brother have told the police that right away? Hey, where'd he get the fentanyl? Oh yeah, he was buying it and using it behind her back. Oh, by the way, I'll call Kouri. Sorry, I never told you about it, but yeah, it's in his allergy bottle in his work truck. Didn't happen, and this is all just made up for her defense.
When you talk to Ronnie about this, meet up with him in person. I worry sometimes your house and phone are bugged. Maybe drive down to SL and meet him after work without Bree.
Again, this is what you do when you're fabricating a defense. This is not refreshing memory. This is complete fabrication. She's the quarterback of her defense, and she's telling her family members how to lie, cover, and bamboozle the jury here.
Tell Ronnie, don't overanalyze it. It was a quick 2-minute conversation, LOL. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home and then we will get those damn bitches. Also, please text Lotto or call. Tell him do not text me anything about us doing things together ever. Like church, skiing, trips, nothing that puts us together. It doesn't look good. We're so close to the end. Let's push through. Have the conversation with Ronnie before he meets with Sky. Then tell him to tell Sky at the meeting about the conversation. Hang in there. We're almost there. Love you to the moon. Take vague notes of all this so you remember before you walk the dog.
So this is what was found in her jail cell, and it wasn't privileged or able to recover it. It wasn't in with her legal file or anything like that. If it was a legal file type of thing, if they're allowed that, then it would be privileged like that, where they cannot open it. But this is something in a regular somewhere in her bunk.
Detective, that's
So there's no expectation of privacy. And so I don't think they even need a search warrant for this one.
guy in that letter referred to Sky Lazaro, Kouri Richins, former defense counsel.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor, please.
Thank you, Eric. Let's jump right back into that letter since we're on it, while it's fresh on our memory. It's Exhibit 286 for the record.
You want me to put it back up?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
What Attorney Nestor does is try to make it look like all those things actually did happen. The way she's wording it, she's trying to get the detective to admit that this is actually what happened, but it's so obvious that she's just trying to cover for Kouri here.
All right, so this letter that you just read aloud, do you know the date that it was written?
I believe it was September either 12th or 13th.
Okay. And in this letter, the very beginning letter tells, I guess if it's her mother that she's addressing it to, if that's what you say, that to remind Ronnie to tell.
Yeah, they don't say the year. Keep in mind, it was 14 months after the murder that she was arrested. So if they're saying September and it was found in her cell, it would have been September, not of 2022, but of like 23 or maybe 24. Well, she says close to the end, so it's could be 25 even.
Sky this story, correct?
What part are you referencing?
The story about what Eric told him about getting fentanyl from Mexico.
There is a part that's
Lotto hasn't come up before, so they didn't explain that, so we don't know who Lotto is.
says tell Sky at the meeting next week.
Okay, so it looks like there's about to be a meeting with her lawyer, Sky, right?
I have no idea if that happened or if that was about to happen.
Okay, well, that's what it says.
It says at the meeting next
Okay.
week.
All right, so there's a meeting coming up with the lawyer, and Kouri is relaying something that Ronnie had known from the past, and something that occurred between him and Eric in the past, right? When they were watching a football game.
You pause for a moment. Go ahead, Mr.
Objection, Your Honor, foundation.
Sustained.
Okay, let's blow it up. We're going to get very particular. All right. A year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and then she tells a story about something that Eric allegedly told Ronnie, right?
You know, I wish the detective would have said what I'm saying. Yeah, this sounds like a script. From my experience, and the prosecution could have asked that too. From your experience, what kind of writing style does this depict? And he could have said this. From my experience, this is depicting someone writing a script for what the intended recipient needs to say to help them at their trial. But
And just by the way, if you could go up just a little bit above that.
Wait for the answer.
Wait, before
Okay.
let me rephrase. Katie, if you could go back up to he will need to tell Sky at the meeting next week, just start right there and then highlight. And then thank you. I'll rephrase.
when you think about all these planning, all the orchestrating of events that Kouri had to manage, both to get this murder accomplished as well as what she did afterwards, including up till right before she's going to trial with this jail letter to her mom. It's she is really scheming. I mean, you talk about all the energy it took for her to scheme, to lie, deceive, and bob and weave through all these scams and this vicious act that she did. It's just unbelievable.
You're withdrawing that question.
Yes, sir, I am.
Understood.
So he's going to need to tell Sky next week about a year prior to his death, something Eric told Ronnie, allegedly, right? About his trips to Mexico.
Your Honor, there's no question there.
It ends in a question mark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Right?
It includes the word allegedly.
Yes. Right?
Hold on, any other objection?
Your Honor, perhaps you could just re-ask it again.
Sure. One more time, Ms. Nestor.
Talks about Ronnie telling a story about a year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie being over watching football one Sunday and talking to him about his trips to Mexico, right?
Or not.
You see, right? In this court,
So these trips to Mexico, that's what defense is trying to allude to. It's like, see, he must have gotten his fentanyl from Mexico and he brought it back. So Kouri didn't know anything about it. But Corey's the one writing the script for this. That's why it has no credibility. When you have to manufacture evidence to prove your innocence, you're not innocent.
all right, there's references in here that Ronnie will have messages on his phone to prove Eric confided in him about getting high, right?
That's what this text says.
As the chief investigator of this case, did you ever go check Ronnie's phone to see if those existed to verify this?
I was made aware of this letter after May 8th.
Look how Corey's so alert and attentive. Like, oh, what's he going to say? Well, oh, he's not going to admit to something. Oh, he's lying about something. I mean, she's so like in tune with it. But if she has emotions about Eric's and his death and all that kind of stuff, nothing, just stone faced.
Of
Like-
2023.
Of 2023.
Okay.
Like I said, I believe investigators reached out to Ronnie to talk to him in general about the case, and he denied letting us talk to him. So, no, I was never able to confirm this with his cell phone.
So we sure have sat in this courtroom and listened to a lot of testimony about search warrants to seize phones. You know how to do that, right?
I do know how to do that.
Didn't issue a search warrant to get Ronnie's phone to see if that happens to be true.
No, but like I said, this information came to me well after May 8th, 2023.
Okay, sir, that's 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
And isn't it true you issued a search warrant as recently as 2 months ago to search the house for, I think, the 10th or 11th time, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then can we go to the very last little bit about they never found pain pills or fentanyl in my house? At the bottom? Yes, please. Thank you.
I can see that.
You can see it? Great.
Anyway,
Okay. So again, this refers to the previous page where Eric allegedly told Ronnie that he kept his drugs in an allergy bottle in his work truck so that Kouri wouldn't find it, right?
Objection, Foundation. That's not what the previous page says.
We just go back to the previous page.
Sure.
Please.
Absolutely. Katie, can you go back to the first page and find the section in there about where he kept his drugs? Let's see. Yep. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy pill bottle in his work truck so I wouldn't find them. Isn't that what that says?
The whole sentence says Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy.
Anyway,
No, that
they never did any follow up with the truck and all that. So that's something the defense trying to make hay about. But could they have done a better job closing all those loose ends? Absolutely. But when you look at the totality of all the evidence, the circumstantial nature of it, it paints a common theme, which is Kouri needed to have Eric dead in order to afford that mansion. She was able to close on it without him, but she's not able to fix it up for millions of dollars when she's drowning in debt. Okay, so I hope the prosecution closes on that point. This was done for financial greed. And for her baby, that's her mansion. She wanted to live in a mansion, a Utah mansion near Park City. All right, let's see here. I'm going to jump ahead. That's all I'm going to show you from day 12. Let me go ahead and find today's. I had today's set aside, ready to pull a tab to it. And what's happening is, for some reason, my YouTube links are getting merged, and then I can't use any of them. So please bear with me. Not sure why that's happening. And so there was a lot of discussion about opening the doors to certain things. And there was a guy named David Norris that they wanted to cross-examine this detective on, the defense I'm talking about. Well, did they follow up with him? Because he said one time Eric had asked him if he had any fentanyl. So this detective didn't follow up on that. And so, but things they otherwise knew about, some of the leads that they followed up on, and things that turned out to be dead ends, or things about this Norris could have all been brought into play. So the judge basically said, if defense opens the door, the prosecution can call over witnesses to show other things they did. Because think about it, if this defense is the cops did a sloppy job, and that's the reasonable doubt, then the prosecution can bring in other stuff that otherwise is not admissible in and of itself, other than to rebut the fact that, oh, well, you didn't interview this person. Oh, you didn't interview that person. Well, then the whole complex totality of what they did and didn't do comes into play. So once they found out that they can rebut the defense doing that, then the defense backed off. So there's a lot of emotions and stuff that just turned out to be really nothing burgers, because the defense backed off. So now here for today, let's go to the 2:13 mark.
You make that ultimate decision.
We'll give everyone a heads up.
I appreciate that. And one of the reasons I would need that is to make sure I give defense an opportunity to state on the record, or at least summarize on the record, their strategic balancing of the risks and benefits, so that there is a record of that going forward.
I appreciate that. And I think that's probably a good idea for everyone,
Okay, very
including
good.
us.
So, Mr. Bloodworth, because the defense will not be opening the door to any portion of its incomplete investigation theory related to David Norris through Detective O'Driscoll, I don't believe the state would be permitted to respond to it yet. Is that your view of it?
I think he's going to argue that. Perhaps he's saying, why didn't the state say she was telling her brother to testify this? They let it sit like this is a true story. I don't know why they didn't bring that out through the detective. I mean, that's ultimately Brad's responsibility, the prosecutor, right? You see right there. This is his responsibility to prep the witness to say that. And he didn't, but I'm sure he's going to argue it. He better argue it.
Is my view of it, Your Honor.
Okay. So, as a matter of status quo, we are going to proceed with additional cross-examination of Detective O'Driscoll, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did we reach an end? Oh, I'm sorry.
Could we just go ahead and, well, I can just do it I think we decided I would just ask him about 340. I'm sorry. I apologize. I
Okay.
withdraw.
I was about to ask, did we reach an endpoint regarding 340 and the photograph?
So the plan is to introduce the stipulated 340, which we'll get in. And then I will ask him if he can identify the photo. If he can't, he can't, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get into the substance of any of the bubbles, and I'm not going to introduce the bubbles or any of that.
Okay.
The only thing I'm going to display to the jury will be the picture on 340. And then I may have it side by side in front of O'Driscoll so he can compare.
Misty Blue says, unfortunately, I think there might be doubt. She's totally guilty, but I'm worried. Well, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all.
And refresh on the one that's not getting introduced.
And to the extent you ask him about whether it was sent as part of text messages between
Only the date.
Eric and Kouri on the date, it's a yes or no question.
Correct. Just
Okay.
on the date, not the time, because I don't want to confuse anyone or require the UTC time or any of that conversation. And the time really is irrelevant to us.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, anything further on that?
No, Your Honor.
All right, jury comes back. Keep in mind, this is today.
Have a seat as you commit. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with additional cross-examination of Detective O'Driscoll by the defense.
Court. Good morning, Detective O'Driscoll.
Good morning, Ms. Nestor.
I believe when we stopped yesterday, we were talking about the GIFs or GIFs. And I want to start by having you review a document that's been agreed to by the parties. It is exhibit number 3-40. And at this point, Your Honor, we're asking to admit it per stipulation of the parties.
So the witness can see 3-40. And do we want to?
And a stand, and include testimony about. And the other one is our president. Okay.
All right, so these are the the three images that were in Kouri's phone around 8:24 on the 4th of March, the morning that we know that Eric's dead.
The morning after the police left Ms. Richins' home, after Mr. Richins passed. Do you remember the testimony about that?
Yes.
Okay. Can we go to the page that shows the GIFs in question? Maybe blow that up at the top. Okay. So I think that's two of them. One of them is from, I guess, the movie Dumb and Dumber. And the other one is our president. And I think there was a third one, but it's, yeah, Mr. Spacey and in a TV program, right? And those were the three GIFs that were talked about. And if you blow up the time that they were accessed, they all were accessed at 8:29:03 a.m. on March the 4th. That's the day that Mr. Richins was found deceased, correct?
Correct.
All right. And I know we've already heard the testimony that these are what we call orphaned GIFs. You can't really tell which text they came with and exactly when they were sent or who they were sent to or by. All we know is that they were somehow accessed at that point by her phone, correct?
That was the testimony, Mr. Cocherdemos, yes.
Okay. Can you pull up another one of the photos? That is the picture from the house. That's it. All right. This is another picture that was accessed at that exact moment at 8:29. And can you blow the picture up a little bit? Do you recognize what that is, that photograph?
It's the legacy home.
It's the legacy home, right? And was there another photo that was accessed that same morning, also orphaned? Can you find that picture? It's right above it, I think. There we go. Can you blow that picture up a little bit?
I call them pics, gifts, whatever.
Thank you. All right. And is that also just a closer up view of the legacy mansion?
It appears so. It's very blurry on my screen.
Legacy mansion. I mean, yeah, legacy of nothing but death and disaster.
It is. I think it is blurry. And then can you back out and show the time that one was accessed according to this same group of photos? That one appears to have been accessed at 10:42 a.m. the same morning.
That's what this,
I mean, why are you reminding the jury of stuff right before you're going to rest that makes your client look extremely guilty? Like she's celebrating. And it's going to carry over to the next night. She stays up all night dancing, laughing, and crying. Crying from laughter, probably, not crying from sorrow.
document says yes.
Okay. Now, if we could put just on the witness's screen, exhibit J.O.
Kouri's like,
I think it's
what are you trying to prove, Nestor? You're scaring me. This makes me look bad. I'm worried about you.
11. Not for the publication yet, Your Honor.
Understood.
All right. And can you take just a moment and blow that up just a little bit so he can read it better? All right. Just take a second and scroll through that and tell me if that refreshes your recollection about any documents you reviewed about Eric's final communications before he passed.
Your Honor, objection. There's no foundation to get to whether or not his recollection requires refreshment.
Yeah, let's pause there. Would you lay a little bit of foundation before we get there?
Sure. And it requires us to go back to yesterday. So yesterday I had asked you right before we stopped.
Okay, Sua Spontanea says, I think they're going to try to argue those communications between Kouri and Eric. Well, but she just said she didn't think the time was relevant for these documents.
If you had, as part of your investigation, reviewed the final communications of Eric right before he passed away, and you mentioned you had, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Based on that, if you could refresh, do you recall the communications you reviewed that day?
Not all of them. Some of them, yeah.
Can we then please blow up this document in front of him and see if this refreshes your recollection as to what you reviewed?
Mr. Bloodworth, the witness doesn't have it yet. Any objection to that question?
Your Honor, I think the objection foundation, I think there requires additional foundation.
I think the question pending is, are these among the things he reviewed? Correct?
Maybe I misunderstood the pending.
Yeah.
That's the question.
So I think,
Can we back up a step? Maybe I'll catch up.
sure. Ms. Nestor, ask your last question one more time, please.
Are these texts that are before you part of what you reviewed from Eric's final communications on his phone?
Go one step before that. He hasn't seen these yet. He doesn't currently have them in front of him.
Do you recall all of the communications you saw that day when you were reviewing Eric's final communications?
All the texts from his phone
Yes.
on the day before he died?
Yes.
I don't remember all of them. I
Okay.
remember some of them.
So then would you please look at this document and see if it refreshes your recollection and as to whether
Lisa Loney, Nestor testifies too much. Brad needs to object. Yeah, I was talking about this today with Leslie because I think that the judge should be the one reining in this defense attorney from doing a constant dialogue. Instead of asking questions, she's having more of a dialogue with the witness. And so her commentary on their testimony to me is objectionable from a judge perspective. As a prosecutor, I'm thinking she doesn't look good. She doesn't look polished. Her questions aren't as crisp and clean. And she's sort of up there just meandering around, sort of lost in the woods. And so, so therefore I'd be tempted to object. But on the other hand, it's like, you know what? You're not looking as good in front of a jury, so I'll let it slide. But as a judge, I don't like an attorney always doing that commentary.
these were included in his communications?
Any objection, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, sir.
Okay. The witness can now see what you're referring to, Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. And can you go down just one more and maybe blow that up a little, that photo? Does this refresh your recollection, these communications of Eric's and Kouri's the day he died?
These are time-stamped March 3rd. That's not the day he died, but the day before he died.
Totally correct, because he died in, we think,
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't get here. It's like, why is Driscoll saying he didn't die on the 3rd, he died on the 4th? No, it's most clear to me that he died on the 3rd. As soon as he had that mule drink, he was dead seconds later. So how would he died on the 4th? If you have 5 times the lethal limit, you're saying sometime after midnight is when he decided to celebrate and have that mule shot, the Moscow Mule. So it's just like pretty shoddy police work here. I hate to say, but and why isn't he prepped better than that? If he was my lead detective on this case and I was a prosecutor, I'd be going like, the prosecution theory has to be that he was murdered on the 3rd, taking into account what we know about what fentanyl does to the body, and we know he had 5 times the amount. I can understand until you knew what he had in his body that killed him. You can say, well, it was either the 3rd or the 4th. It could have very well been the 3rd because his body had rigor mortis setting in. Now, he was pronounced dead on the 4th. That's totally different. So is the detective getting mixed up on that? So anyway, I would say that definitely he died on the 3rd. They declared him dead on the 4th.
the early morning hours of the 4th, right?
Yeah, he was pronounced deceased on the 4th.
Okay.
Yes, Your
So,
Honor. Sorry, objection. Foundation is to the meaning of died, right? He was pronounced dead.
But I think the witness and the questioning lawyer have a common understanding here.
See, Lori, Corey's disturbed by what Brad, the prosecutor, is saying, but she's not disturbed by seeing graphic images and hearing about Eric being killed in this trial.
Overruled.
thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so were these included in what you reviewed in the communications between Eric and Kouri on the 3rd of March?
Yes.
All right. And this photograph if you could blow that up.
Your Honor, objection, his recollection has been refreshed. I think the exhibit can now be set aside.
I'm not publishing it. I've just got one more question about the photo and then I'm done.
I'll take you down and ask your question. If we need to refresh again, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Wait, did you tell me I could ask the question?
Yeah, I took the photo down. Ask whatever you're about to
Yes,
ask.
yes.
Okay.
Does the photo that you just refreshed your recollection with match the same photo that we just saw in 340? That was the corner of the Midway Mansion.
Your Honor, the photo is still up on my screen and the witness is
My apologies. There you go.
staring at it.
Sorry.
Ooh.
Is it the same photo, sir?
This one that we just saw that was enlarged, you're asking if that's the same as the one in the text message?
Does it match the one that we just put on the screen for the jurors that came with all those other pictures that morning?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have. Done with that. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not. Can I have just one moment, Your Honor?
All that-
course.
Thank you. I'm done with that. Oh, maybe I'm not done with that. You know, all that commentary, I just think it's awkward for an attorney to do that. You go in there crisp, clean with questions, and you move on. You don't, at most you would say, as to, and then go on to a different point, but do all this like, well, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about something else. Let's focus on all that verbose commentary before you ask a question and afterwards. Is this really, to me, it just bogs down the trial unnecessarily. Do any name calling, please? Great comments, but let's please try to avoid name calling.
Okay. One more step. If we could go back to 340, which has been admitted, and pull up some additional gifts that were accessed at that same time. If we could pull those up, please.
Sure. There you go.
Okay, so there's the picture on the bottom left-hand corner of the Midway Mansion house, right?
Yes.
And that one was accessed at 10:42 a.m. the morning of the 4th.
Yes.
And the one with the champagne is also that exact same time.
Yes.
And the one with the farmer is that exact same time.
Yes.
And we know for sure that the one on the bottom left was sent the day before. Because we just looked at that, right? And you refreshed your recollection.
Yeah, I don't know if the part of the extraction that we're looking at right now is saying that that's where that came from. I don't know if that's the same file path, but that photo is the same.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we can take that down now.
She's not explaining what point she's trying to make. So if she's trying to say that, oh, Eric probably saw him or something, she's not making that point. It's really bizarre.
All right. I also want to talk to you about, sorry, startle me.
I agree.
I also want to talk to you about the Google searches that were testified about here that were on Ms. Richins' phone or computer or both. Did you review those as part of your investigation?
Yes.
All right. And were you able to determine dates on all of those searches when they were made?
I don't believe so. Yeah, that would be a question for Mr. Cocherdemos. I remember seeing the
So basically anything digital, he always refers to the forensic guy. As a lead detective, he should know those kind of details. Maybe not a lot of the technical aspects of it, but what the images showed, I think he should know that stuff.
searches and the text of the searches, but I believe he testified that that there wasn't a timestamp associated with them and that they differed from the action in the phone that showed that a link was actually clicked on from one of those searches.
Okay, perfect.
And I believe those had timestamps.
Okay, the links, but maybe not the searches.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification. And you
Or commentary, unnecessary. Jury just wants to hear the next question.
agree that as of April the 13th of 2022, approximately a month and a few days after Eric passed away, that Ms. Richins' house was searched and she was detained in a police vehicle, right?
You know, I've never seen a criminal case where the defense counsel so frequently brought up their client being arrested. It's just really weird. That's the last thing you want to have be brought out, is that your client's arrested or been in jail. I mean, sometimes it has to come out that they're in jail because of testimony, like we saw in Don Adelson, where you got a jailhouse snitch, things of that nature. But you really don't want the jury thinking of your client being somebody that's been living in the jail for a couple years and got arrested and has been sued for wrongful death. All these kind of stuff. It's like this defense has no concerns one bit about that.
Objection, Your Honor.
Foundation.
Foundation, yeah.
Sustained. Lay a little foundation.
Are you aware that there was a search conducted on her house on April 13th?
On Miss Richins' house?
Yes.
Yes.
And are you aware that while that search was being conducted, Ms. Richins was temporarily detained in a police vehicle for a period of time?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for a legal conclusion.
I mean, what's the point? There's no point here with Attorney Nestor doing this. Are you trying to draw sympathy to the jury? That's actually not going to draw sympathy.
Overruled on that.
Go ahead.
I think the word detained is the problem there. I think there's been dispute over whether or not she was detained. But she was spoken to. She was asked to wait in law enforcement's vehicle until the lead detective could come speak to her about what was going on with the search.
Okay.
Okay. I got my point across. Yes. You admitted that. Victory for the defense.
So the searches on the website, fair to say that all of those searches are believed to have occurred after April 13th of 2022?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know there were timestamps on the searches, so I can't be sure.
Did you ever interview any of Kouri's family or friends and ask them if they were responsible for any of those, or if they'd ever seen Kouri do it, or who did those searches?
No.
Okay. All right, I'd
Wasn't on their devices.
like to talk about the orange notebook for just a moment. We pulled up,
That's like the diary that we covered earlier.
do you have that orange notebook exhibit? I can't remember the number of it. Court's indulgence for just a minute. I have the number. I've got it. Straight.
Corey's looking worried.
Oh, we don't have
More
Two
in an orange kid's school notebook, right?
Correct.
Okay, and can you fast forward, Katie, to any knowledge about the circumstances under which it was prepared? Do you? Or why it was written?
I do not.
And you don't know when it was written?
Anyway.
Is that mental health counseling?
Oh, yeah. Here's
Did you take any steps to verify if that actually was the date she started doing mental health counseling?
That's a zinger right there. You did not do your job. You should have confirmed whether she went to counseling or not, detective. That's reasonable doubt right there. Sloppy investigation. You didn't corroborate that. What's your point, Attorney Nestor?
Reviews that we conducted, we did get Kouri's medical records, and I don't remember if mental health counselor was part of those, but that's possible.
And I imagine as a
Seems like he's just not really up on a lot of details of this case, but it's still a win for the prosecution.
I forgot the word you used.
Anyway, I'm just going to jump ahead here to Mark.
That's
Jury came back. What they defense had was we'll get to that here in a minute. Hold on.
Have a seat, folks. Thank you.
I knew you were on it.
All right, Mr. Bloodworth, we're on the record. The jury is not present. Tell me what's up.
Your Honor, the state's waiting on the defense's decision regarding the Norris matter, because if they want to proceed in one fashion.
So the defense is saying they want to go ahead and proceed with cross-examining this detective on this David Norris issue about him supposedly getting a request from Eric Richins to buy fentanyl off him. Anyway, that's what I was talking about earlier in this live stream, that that they were haggling over this. And as it turns out, the defense didn't open that door. So let's jump ahead to 312 here.
All right, Mr. Bloodworth, we're on the record. The jury is not present. Tell me what's up.
Your Honor, the state's waiting on the defense's decision regarding the Norris matter.
Okay.
Its case.
Not the response to or rebuttal of the defense's.
Sorry, 339 is what I'm trying to go to. My apologies. 339 is the motion for direct verdict ruling. I'm not even going to show you what Alex
The evidence.
argued. It's a loser motion for them. They're trying to do a direct verdict where the judge finds them not guilty because the state hasn't proven any evidence to carry it over to a jury.
Must be viewed in the light most favorable to the state. Applying these legal principles as announced by the Utah Supreme Court in State versus Montoya, 2004 UT 5. The court finds that the state has established a prima facie case against defendant Kouri Richins by producing believable evidence of each element of each crime charged in the operative information. Defendant's motion for directed verdict is respectfully denied.
There you go.
Ms. Nestor, you asked for time to speak with your client to make some strategic decisions. Is between now and 1 p.m. sufficient time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, anything further before we recess until 1 o'clock?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor,
No, sir.
on evidence and calling witnesses, you have a couple in the witness.
Let's go back to when the jury returns. They say just a few minutes, but as in most courts, it lasts a lot longer. And so here we go.
State's counsel and defense counsel are present. Ms. Richins is present. Mr. Bloodworth, would you like me just to tell the jury when they come back in that the state has rested?
Yes, so that's fine.
Okay, will do. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, what's the plan?
Ready to go.
Who's defense counsel's first witness?
Here we go. You can tell the judge. We talk about all.
Quick, just a minute.
Yeah.
We've been talking like we got this big rollout of witnesses going to come and steamroll the prosecution's case.
We have a couple of options.
Understood.
You don't want to.
Yes and no. Was I shocked the defense rested?
Your Honor, actually, at this time, the defense intends to rest.
We should probably do that in front of the jury, yes.
Right?
Intends to rest. It's sort of like a Donna Adelson type thing. Like, well, I don't think I want to testify right as of now. I could change my mind later. That's why I don't understand why we're not going to have jury instructions until Monday morning at 8:30 there. And so I like going directly to prosecution, especially since there's no defense witnesses. Prosecution has all this momentum, and you want to get it to the jury as quick as you can. The verdict, I believe, would come out tomorrow afternoon if they got their ducks in a row and presented it to a jury. The jury's not going to take long on this. I don't think so.
I
Okay.
agree.
I just want to make sure you've consulted with your client about this.
Absolutely.
Is now an appropriate time to get a waiver of Ms. Richins' right to testify on the record?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Okay. You've consulted with Ms. Richins about her, or advised Ms. Richins about her right to testify, correct?
At length.
Okay. Ms. Richins, may I ask you 2 direct questions?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to testify at trial?
Yes, I do.
Are you following your attorney's advice and waiving your right to testify at trial?
Yes, I am.
I accept your waiver. I find it's knowing and voluntary.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on the record, Ms. Lewis?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth, how would you propose?
So she's not going to testify how much she loved Eric. She'd never do such a thing. She wouldn't convince anybody of anything. This was just guarantee a quicker conviction. Their attorneys know that if she got on the stand, there's a guaranteed conviction. If she doesn't get on the stand, they're going to say, well, maybe there's a chance of a hung jury. But yeah, the court's back on Monday. At least the jury is. They can go back and haggle over the defense instructions tomorrow on Friday. I guess it already is Friday now.
As we proceed from here for the rest of today.
And the jury.
Get the jury.
Chance of difference.
Here comes jury then.
Have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Bloodworth.
Your Honor, the state rests its case.
Very good. Ms. Lewis.
Your Honor, after consulting with our client, the defense rests.
Understood. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there is some legal work that I need to do with counsel in this case to get from here to the next stage. Rather than use your time inefficiently with you in the courtroom, we're going to do the following. We're going to recess for today. You will be on your own in the wild between now and 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. I cannot emphasize this enough. Between now and 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, please do not say anything about this case to anyone. I would understand if you had to tell somebody that you have to be back here at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. Other than that circumstance, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Do not allow anyone to attempt to talk to you about it. It will take affirmative effort and diligence. I need you to use that same affirmative effort and diligence to make sure you avoid watching, listening, or reading anything about this case from any source whatsoever. And please do not do any search, research, query, anything of any kind.
I wish the judge would say, I order you not to do any research. Instead of saying, please, it makes it sound like it's a request that is not mandatory to be followed.
Between now and 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. Please travel safe. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you at 8:30 a.m. on Monday. Please rise for the jury.
Yeah, it's only a smart decision she's made in a long time. Yes, there was a comment there that here it is, Phoenix Rising. IMO, the irony is Kouri brought this case on herself. If she had not filed to have the trust set aside, the Richins wouldn't have hired a PI to defend the trust. They would have left in the hands of law enforcement. And it wouldn't have been as good of a case. It could have caused a hung jury, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, that's an point I agree with.
All right, folks, have a seat. May I propose the following? That counsel have an email exchange or a phone call, say 4 p.m.-ish today, about the state of the jury instructions and whether you think there need to be any additions or amendments. And then, to the extent there are, Please send.
All right, that's enough of court coverage for the last 2 days. So I expect then after they get through by tomorrow noon, they should have everything worked out. They're just waiting to report back Monday to give the jury instructions and then arguments, and then it'll go to the jury. I'll probably go to the jury late morning, and I think we'll have a verdict on Monday. So I think the prosecution just needs to hammer home all these incriminating details. There's so many incriminating things that she's done through text messages, emails, video we've seen, her celebrating, dancing, partying, all that kind of stuff she admits to. We see it. She looks happy. She looks so happy. And was on that video we saw, she's trying to hide her happiness, but she's so happy. And her kids are right there seeing how happy she is. They're partying. I mean, that's just so bizarre. You're dancing the night away, laughing and crying because you're laughing so hard, and your husband died the previous night. No, this jury isn't going to buy that for a second. So anyway, I might come on again sometime in the next couple nights and maybe do something as far as doing an assessment of what the opening statement has panned out for the defense, what they said they would do. Keep in mind, they said that they had some rough spots in the marriage 3 years before the death of Eric, and they got things worked out. They're basically a happy couple, happy family, and they have not shown that at all. Yeah, there's some spots where Eric is trying to look like he's trying to keep the marriage and family together, but she's not. She's doing everything she can to unravel it, and she's just faking stuff to be able to pull this off. Because the only way, I really hope they prove that the only way she could afford that house was to have Eric killed off with all that insurance money she reaped in and collected. And she did actually collect it, I might add. She also thought there's maybe going to be more she could get from the estate, the house. She thought she was going to keep the house. Remember how she's freaking out that they're trying to take the house away from her? So that's that kind of stuff. She never underestimated how little she was going to get from Eric being dead. Granted, she got the life insurance, but in all of her scams to pull that off, pretty much most of that was successful on her part. But what she didn't count for was the fact that's not enough to fix up that house, number one. And number two, you're going to have the Richins family not letting you get access to the trust money like you thought you would. So that pretty much was going to crush her business. It was already in the crush mode anyway. It was imploding. So don't know if I'll have time to do the state's opening, but I thought I'd cover the defense opening at least. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I got to see how much time I got. So anyway, you all have a great Friday here and weekend, and we'll see what happens when I can jump back on. But my prediction is it's going to be a quick verdict, and she's going to be found guilty for sure of the murder. Everything else I'm not worried about, but I think they'll find her guilty of those things as well. Maybe not the forgery, but the insurance fraud. So maybe those first 4 counts are the strongest. At least the one that's sort of potentially weaker is the forgery, but the prosecutor's not worried about that. That's just maybe the jury will toss for that just to show that they did consider some of the evidence. They didn't rush to judgment on it. So in any event, all right, thanks. Take care.